Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be making, I have to point this way. Today we're going to be making something like this. I've had this request a lot. The hair technique that I'm going to be showing you today is not the most up to date, possibly still the fastest though. I'm still yet to switch over to geometry nodes. I'm still using the old particle system way of making hair just because it's what I've been doing for the last years and I love how speedy it is to get what I want from it. This is by no means the definitive way to make hair. I'm just trying to make my cute little gay hairstyles in Blender. Okay, let's go. I'm picking up where I left off from last tutorial, which was the skin shader setup. I've got the same model here, same lighting, everything. We head over to particle system. We add a new particle system and select hair. It's going to, I'll switch over so you can see a bit easily. It's going to add hairs all over the mesh of the character. We don't want that, of course. So we zoom in and we switch over to weight paint mode. And here, I'm just going to hide this. You can also do this first. I'm going to decide now, wherever I paint is where the hair will grow. Sometimes I do the hair portioned into two sections, such as one at the front, do it really messy so you can see, a bit wider, and then I do a secondary one at the back for if I'm doing a hairstyle a little bit like mine. This would be one area and then the back would be another area. It kind of also depends where the camera is. If we're trying to do this fast and a bit cheeky, you might not want to show it from the side because there might be a weird seam parting here. Alternatively, I sometimes split it into left and right, so I might do one here and another one like this. You get what I mean, right? I think for today I'm going to do the most simple one because this tutorial and all of the others are all about my shortcuts and how I streamline the process and just make it a little bit faster. I'm going to change the fall off type to be this one. I don't know if it has a name. It just stops there being these edges. You see now that we don't have these blurred edges because the hairline normally of people is not a kind of range. You have a pretty hard cutoff for where the hair stops growing. And even if you don't, that's also fine. I'm just wondering how far forwards to bring it. If I'm doing a fringe, which with the hair coming forwards, which I probably will do for this one, it doesn't have to be super accurate. And to be honest, this is probably as much as I will do. Yeah, a bit more here. Because you can go right down here, but it can get a little bit messy with the grooming. Let's have a look. So we switch it, I'm going to switch it back on. And in the settings, we come down to vertex groups and we change the density to be the group that we just made. Obviously this hair is way too long, so let's set the length to be 0.3 meters. That's still really long for fringe, so 0.1. Okay, let's see how we get on with this. First, what we have to do is also change the segments. I'm gonna up this just to 7. It should be enough for the shorter hair. For a longer hair, you probably want this above 10. And we switch over to particle edit mode, and now we can move and comb the hair all around. What I like to do is to go to the side, pressing 3, bring the radius all the way up so it kind of covers most of the hair. Bring it upwards first so they're all aligned, and then to bring it forwards. And you'll notice that our other side is not following and not behaving, so we're just gonna have to do it to both. And yeah, it looks like this is probably still too long, which we can change here in the groom. It kind of depends what sort of look we're going for. Or long, uncovering the eyes could also be a vibe. We can have a look quickly. It's gonna look super choppy, and that's because we need to fix a couple things. So firstly, the render display, we need to change the material. Right now there is no material for the hair, so if we head over to our materials and we add a new material at the bottom, let's call it hair, and we'll change from the principled BSDF, we change it to principled hair BSDF, and I'm just going to make the color a bit brighter so we can see more easily, and then we change this from body to hair. Okay, now we can see a little better. You'll notice that the hairs look really thick, like they look like noodle strands, and that's easily changed. We go to hair shape, and the root diameter we change to 0.1, and we have a much finer hair. It's a bit straggly and it's still maybe a bit thick at the root, so I will even change it to 0.05. That's better, maybe even, it depends on the scale of your scene. Something like 0.02 is better, and they look like Gollum now with this really straggly hair. Don't worry, all we have to do is to go to children and add interpolated. So if I show you the difference here and then here, basically interpolated is adding hairs, so there'll be like one command hair and another one kind of further away, and then interpolated is like imagining how many hairs would be between these kind of parenting. That's why it's called children. They're the children of the parents, the parent hairs. Let's have a look at the clumping. We can also tell all the hairs to stick together a little bit, and we can also add a kink. So a kink will be a kind of curl pattern. When you select it at first, it's going to look crazy. Don't worry, that's just because the amplitude is way too high. It should be more like this. And we can also set the viewport display steps to be more like a 6. It's going to smooth it out, maybe even, I don't know, 6 is good. And the render we would put up to 8, something like this. This is basically the amount of like smoothness in the curve. I'm going to change it from curl to maybe be wave. I think the wave is a bit nicer. And if we move the shape down, it's going to make the top bits, if I, wait, let me turn the frequency up so I have like a load of curls. You can see with the shape 0, the curls start at the base and they go all the way to the tip. If we move the shape up, you can see now that the roots are straight and towards the tips we have a bit of wave, which is maybe a little, can be a bit more natural depending on the hair type. So if you have like a more wavy, for instance, the back of my hair, it's much straighter here and the curls like form kind of at the bottom. So we can also imitate that. If we go curl, turn the amplitude up. Obviously this is the wrong part of the head. We would do this on the longer bit, but you can kind of see how you can change these settings in order to manipulate it a little bit to closer to what we want. But I quite like a kind of higher frequency curl just at the end to get this sort of wet, like sleek look. And yeah, we'll see that it's poking into the face, but we can also fix that a little bit. I'm going to go back into the grooming and the particle edit, and I'm going to see what happens if I cut a bit of a fringe in. We go for a bit of a severe bob kind of fringe. So we can cut and then we can brush again to get rid of some of this. It's a bit even, a bit uniform. And then we hop over back to object mode. Yeah, don't worry about the weird clipping. I think it's still too long. So what I'm gonna do is, I really don't like where the groom is going, so I'm gonna delete the edit, and instead I'm gonna drop the hair length to 0.07. Oops. 0.07. And try again. And if it's too close to the head, which is why it's poking through, we can increase the deflection to be a little bit higher, 0.35, something like that. Let's try again. Okay, it looks a bit better. Yeah, this is nicer. We still have a big gap in the middle. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I can pull it all a bit and then I can talk you through what some of these other brushes do. So smooth kind of makes all the hairs a bit more aligned. If you do add, it's going to grow more hairs. So if you realize that there was maybe a bald patch or something, you can just add some up. Length is obviously going to lengthen from the area, from the point that you select. So if you lengthen from the base, it's going to lengthen the entire hair. Yeah, you kind of just wiggle it and it will grow. If you lengthen from the end, then it's going to grow kind of weirdly because it's only lengthening like the last segment. If we puff, it's going to puff the hairs up away from the deflector, and then cutting is obviously cutting. Yeah, so we can do a little bit of sort of styling. We can bring some of these bits closer together, kind of how they would fall a little bit more naturally on the face. And we check again. Nice. Let's add some color. So right now we have just a plain one color. I always like to add a gradient to these, and the way that we're going to do that is Shift A, search, and we want curve info. This is taking the information from the strands of hair, and we're going to pull the intercept and plug that into a color ramp. You can just search color ramp and then drag the color into the color. And if I move this down, you can see that we have the roots are dark and the tips are white. Obviously this is now a really, really strong contrast, and if I drop this back down, then you can get some really nice subtle contrast with the hair color. They can make it look really natural. And for me, I always love a little bit of color. I'm just wondering if I match something to the eyes a little bit of this character. I don't know, it's probably a bit of a weird color, this. Green? Dark roots, because they haven't topped it up for a while. I'll have to bring the background and all the lights back so I can see how it looks, and also put my lighting back on. Okay, it looks too natural. Well, natural is also nice, but and the white blue is also a vibe. It's cool. So we can also increase something like the random roughness, which will give some of the hair a bit of a shine, some of it a bit more roughness, and you can play around with how shiny or not shiny you want the hair in general as well. You know me, it's gonna be it's always gonna be shiny, so yeah, I might even drop random down. These settings all just depend on your lighting setup. So feel free to just experiment and go a little bit wild with those. Okay, yeah, it's looking good. I still want to do a bit more of the styling to maybe see if I can get the fringe looking a bit cleaner. Drop the radius down and maybe put the strength up. And I want to sort of part some areas away from each other. Imagine that you've got some hair gel or just a tiny bit of product. We're just easing these bits. Something like this. Yeah, nice. And we'll just keep going. And honestly, you can spend hours tweaking. I can spend hours just tweaking little bits. Only hairs. What you can do is switch over to something like this and select, oops, and say you want to select only these hairs or these hairs for instance, and go back to combing, and then you're only moving the ones that you have selected. But to be honest, I prefer to just keep a selection on all of the hair. Okay, for now it will do, and let's tackle the rest of the hair, the back. Hide this again, and I'm going to hop on over to weight paint mode. We don't want to add to this one, we want to make a new one. So let's head over to data, object data properties. This was the first group, I might even rename it fringe. And we add another one, and we'll call it long hair. And now you see that the other one has disappeared, and we are able to just add in our next one. This might be a little bit slow on your PC, that it's calculating both at once. If that is the case, then you can just hide this particle system, and this will be a lot faster now to draw. And yep, done that. Now I will add a second particle system. So back to your particle systems, we go plus to add another one. What we can do is, if you wanted it to have the same settings, so the same child, the same clump, etc., you can change it to be the same particle system. You see that we already have this nice clumping. The issue is, if you make any changes, it's going to change also how this one looks. So just remember that. Instead, then, what you can do is, we've copied those settings from this one, and if I just click here, it's going to be a new system. So this one will be long hair. I should have renamed the other one short hair, but for some reason Blender doesn't let you change the name after you've done the grooming. I don't know why. If someone knows why, I would love to know why. So yeah, let's scroll down and change the vertex group density for long hair, and now it's all growing just from there. And it's way too short, so let's go a bit crazy and add, and the segments, let's go 12. And I'm gonna also increase the paths here, so something like 9. And let's see if my computer handles it okay. That seems alright. It kind of depends on your specs. If you've got a really beefy CPU, then this will be totally fine for you. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring some of the hair to the front, and we'll see now that even though it seemed like it was going to be really, really long, it's not that long. And I might even go for a longer one, but let's see how it looks first. Yeah, something like that, really rough. Head back into viewport. Some issues, the deflection from the emitter was high still, but it might not be an issue. Kind of looks okay. I'm gonna change the deflection. This only works whilst you're grooming, so you'll have to re-groom it a little bit. I want it to come much further forward. I think it's way too short, or there's just not enough hair, because I only drew in the weight paint. It stops growing here, and I kind of did that just to be a bit lazy, but I'm gonna add some more lower down. And to be honest, maybe a bit more at the sides. I could also do the sides separately. I might have to. I will see how it looks. I'm gonna like double the area of this. Okay. Okay, we've got a lot more hair now growing. I'm gonna delete the edit and we will go again. We could even brush all of it to one side. Have a look. It looks like there's no hair now because it's all flowing around the side. But there's some nice shapes going, like from the curl. It's okay. Yeah, I think to be honest, the hair is still too short. And the best way to do that is to delete the edit and to make it longer from scratch. It's a bit annoying, but that's the best way to do it at the moment. It's really slow now in my viewport, so if I hide this one, it will speed it up. I want some probably coming around the side, actually, like this. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit unnatural the way it's falling, but to be honest, the rest of the body is hidden, and I only want the portrait shot. Like this. And notice that because the hair is longer, the roots are then also visible for a lot more time of the hair. So what I would do is, instead of keeping the same material, I will make a second hair material. I'll just call it the same one, and then we can click new material, hair, change this to hair long, and change the root to be higher up, and then we have to change in the longer particle system the material to be hair long. And yeah, now the roots. I will show you the difference. This was hair long, and that was the old one. So it's completely mismatched, but we fixed that really easily. Just like that. Okay, so yeah, we still got these bald patches here, but it sort of is going to depend on my camera placement, which, if the camera is the front, we're done. There's a little bit of weirdness, but no one would ever notice. How would they know? I will just duplicate this and move the camera around. Obviously, if we're going 3/4, we're going to notice this issue. So let's fix that. All we're going to do is head and make sure we're editing the shorter particle system. And there's a few ways to do this. We can either do it in the particle edit by adding some hairs and just grooming them down, which is easy, and maybe I will do that way. Yeah, so I'm going to add some hairs here, and then just brush them in a kind of secondary long bit. Let's see how that looks. They're hidden. That's because they don't appear in the weight paint. Not an issue. Let's then add some more in here, and then yeah, it's because we've set the density to be this weight paint. And if I show you the other technique on the other side, which would be only doing the weight painting, by adding some, it's going to automatically follow the groom that was already in place. So you get like one longer bit versus kind of grooming it in and then adding it in. It's kind of the same difference, because now if I head over to particle edit, I don't have control over it, but what I can do is push these out the way here and then go add in a couple of hairs. And if I groom these ones, oops, if I groom these ones, it now follows those ones. So it doesn't matter which order you do it in, basically. Just gonna tuck them in the sides, and let's see how that looks. Maybe still a little bit strange, and it's probably because there's also no layering in this back bit, so we can even go in and add a little bit here in that bald patch, then it's hidden. Okay, now we're getting this sort of segmenting that I was talking about, that they're crisscrossing. It might not be visible because of the lighting. I think it probably is fine. So yeah, that's basically it. And I would just go ahead and tweak a little bit of the curls now, but for me it's pretty much there. maybe see how this looks. One thing to make sure before you render is if you like how the density looks, we don't need the render amount to be high. I would maybe up it slightly. So right now it's displaying 10 hairs in your viewport. If we drop it to 0, that's 0 children hairs. If I quickly put it to 15 just to see how it looks good. It was originally at 100, which is going to be, I think, probably way too thick. Yeah, you see it's like really, really, really clumpy. And because I've been editing it with the 10 in mind, it doesn't have to be that. Yeah, I think the curls for the back hair can be much more obvious. So what I will do is the amplitude can go to 0.03. Change it to curls. And we get a much nicer. It's really wispy. I'm gonna just spend a bit of time fixing this wispiness. Bear with me. Okay, after a couple of little tweaks, I've decided that they're all good and ready. It's got to the stage where I'm happy with it. That didn't take so long. It took maybe, I don't actually know how long this is running for. It took maybe, in total, 30 minutes max of actually head down and concentrating, which is hopefully faster than any other tutorial that you've watched. Yeah, go forth. Enjoy. If this was useful for you, then I would really, really, really appreciate a like or a comment or a subscribe or all three, and let me know below what you want to see next from me. If you're familiar or not familiar with my work, then let me know which secrets of the workflow are still not clear, and I'm happy to share. All right, thank you so much. Peace. See you on the next one.